Pride FC was the greatest combat sports show that ever existed, and Dana White's empire wiped it off the face of the earth. That is the complete story. On October 11th, 1997, a Japanese fighting promotion held its first event in a country that already loved combat sports. Nobody outside Japan paid much attention at the time. Zuffa was still a small and underground operation getting banned by state athletic commissions across America. During this period, Pride was quietly building something the world had never seen before. By the early 2000s, Pride FC owned the Japanese market. They ran events in Saitama Super Arena, the kind of venue that makes Madison Square Garden look like a high school gym. Fighters walked out through actual laser light shows and pyrotechnics going off, while 40,000 fans screamed their lungs out. That production felt like a rock concert fused with a war. In August 2002, ownership packed 90,000 fans into a single event. This was the largest mixed martial arts crowd in recorded history, and competing American promotions did not come close to that number for another decade. Athletes in Pride were treated more like deities than regular competitors. Fedor Emelianenko walked out stone-faced while thousands of Japanese fans cheered wildly, and then he finished his fight in under 2 minutes, as if it were a minor inconvenience. Vanderlei Silva threw himself at opponents with such ferocity that the crowd never sat down. Mirko Cro Cop carried a left high kick that ended careers on contact. Quentin Rampage Jackson ran through the competition so aggressively that he wore a heavy metal chain around his neck, and it felt fully earned. You were not watching average competitors. These athletes represented the finest talent alive at the time, and every single one chose Pride over any American cage. The reason for this loyalty was money. Pride paid its fighters at a level that made other purses look like overtime shifts at a gas station. Dana White was still arguing with his own athletes about pay, whereas Pride offered guaranteed contracts, first-class travel, and true financial security. Elite talent went where the best money was offered, which was a simple business reality. The true origin of all that money completely changes the understanding of this entire story. Nobuyuki Sakakibara ran Pride as its public face. He built the brand, booked the fights, and put on the show. Behind him sat people with far more dangerous interests. The organized crime network of Japan had their hands deep inside the finances of the promotion. Mr. Ishizaka and Kim Dok-soo were not casual investors. They operated illegal gambling rings built specifically around Pride events, moving millions of dollars through underground betting networks that needed live fight results to function. Organized crime figures did not just watch from their seats, they interfered directly in the operations. Athletes received calls on one day of notice to take bouts they were not prepared for. A late replacement is an unpredictable fighter. An unpredictable fight meant manipulated odds, and manipulated odds meant the mob cashed out with substantial profits. Most competitors stepped into the ring completely clueless about the real motives. They received a phone call and a plane ticket, and this dark engine kept running. Pride also held a large television deal with Fuji TV, which was one of the most powerful broadcasters in Japan. That contract brought in millions in revenue and gave the promotion mainstream legitimacy across the country. Millions of Japanese households tuned in every broadcast night, which meant nobody at the network wanted to ask uncomfortable questions as long as the ratings stayed strong. The situation changed drastically in 2006. A popular Japanese magazine published an exposé connecting Pride directly to organized crime. Names appeared in print, and business ties got traced back to the syndicate. Those mob connections stopped being hidden, and Fuji TV had one immediate response, which was complete cancellation. That broadcast contract vanished overnight, and with it went the biggest source of legitimate income for Pride. No television deal meant no mainstream sponsors. No sponsors meant the money dried up at blistering speed. This wide-reaching mixed martial arts organization went from highly successful to completely drowning in a matter of months, and there was no way back. Sakakibara attempted deals in the United States, chased new broadcast partnerships, and tried to rebuild the operation in a different market. None of these efforts worked. The widely publicized scandal had burned the brand, and rival executives watching from across the Pacific saw the vulnerability and moved in to take advantage. On March 27, 2007, Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, who owned Zuffa LLC and controlled everything stateside, bought Pride FC for approximately $65 million. Considering its peak value, that price was a bargain that should embarrass everyone who let it happen. Dana White promoted the purchase to fans as a positive development. He talked about a Super Bowl of mixed martial arts featuring cross-promotional matchups where the best fighters in the world would finally collide on one stage. Fans genuinely believed they were about to witness an important piece of history. The fans were correct about witnessing history, although it did not happen the way they hoped. A final Pride event took place on April 8, 2007, which was exactly 11 days after the Fertittas signed the paperwork. Nobody announced it as the final show, and the lights simply went out for the last time. Zuffa never ran another Pride event after that night. No Super Bowl of mixed martial arts ever materialized, and there were no dream matchups between two rosters packed with the finest fighters alive. Instead, the Fertittas took the Pride video library, which held hundreds of hours of the greatest fights ever filmed. They absorbed the top fighters into their own roster and let the entire organization disappear without ceremony. This celebrated competitor got purchased, stripped down to its individual parts, and quietly buried in a business transaction. This decision was certainly a smart business move. At the same time, it was the deliberate elimination of a promotion that could have threatened industry dominance all over again if it had been given new financial backing in time. Fedor refused to sign stateside and spent years fighting in smaller promotions. This meant the greatest heavyweight of his generation never competed on the biggest stage available. Vanderlei Silva made the transition, but never recaptured the electricity he carried in Japan. Mirko Cro Cop won a heavyweight tournament and then gradually faded. That unique magic failed to survive the transfer across the world, and the pure Pride soul did not fit inside a caged octagon. For anyone who missed this entire era, you can still find old Pride footage if you search hard enough. Archived fights, fan recordings, and old broadcast clips are scattered across the internet. Every single comment section on those videos carries the exact same feeling. People miss Pride deeply and openly. They compare those old fights to current cards without hesitation, and the old fights win every time. This feeling is more than just nostalgia. It is a genuine argument that something rare got taken away and was never replaced. Drop your favorite Pride fighter in the comments and subscribe if you want more stories like this one. This is the kind of sports history that deserves to be remembered. Pride FC ran for exactly 10 years, from 1997 to 2007. In that decade, it produced some of the finest fights in combat sports history. The promotion built icons the sport still talks about decades later, drew crowds no mixed martial arts promotion has matched since, and ran on a foundation of genuine spectacle sitting directly on top of organized crime money. That clear contradiction of genius and corruption running side by side in perfect tension is what makes this story impossible to forget. Zuffa won the promotional war utterly and permanently. They hold the footage, the fighters, the official record, and the history. However, asking anyone who watched both promotions at their absolute best which one gave them something they never forgot yields a very different response. The answer favoring the Japanese promotion arrives fast and without hesitation. Pride was different and highly electric, and the Fertittas wrote a substantial check to make sure it stayed gone forever.